All right, bro.
Oh, we have a cool lady, y'all. I'm about to buy these high-ass oysters.
Get the
We
big
about
one,
to try them. They both big as fuck.
Nah, get that one. That one's real big.
I'm like, spit it out. He told us pour this on it. You first.
No, you first. No, but give me that little bitty one.
No, you getting the big one. Oh my God, I'm scared. It's raw. Come on at the same time. Cut it in half. Ooh, 1, 2, 3.
Silence hangs over the pre-dawn darkness of Ronmar Drive, a neighborhood where people normally sleep soundly through the night. Then, at exactly 4:30 a.m. on March 30th, 2025, that silence is shattered. A frantic 911 call breaks through the Emergency Dispatch Center in Alexandria, Louisiana. The caller's voice is urgent, reporting gunshots and screaming from inside a single-family home. By the time first responders arrive, it's already too late. What they discover inside will become the focus of a complex investigation. 2 bodies, 2 gunshot wounds, and absolutely no witnesses to what transpired in those final moments. The victims: 38-year-old Shaterrica Smith and 42-year-old Tracy Johnson. One a victim, one a perpetrator. But what led to this fatal morning? What invisible pressure built between these walls? And could anyone have seen it coming? If you're fascinated by the hidden dynamics of real-life cases and want to understand the truth behind closed doors, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications. We investigate cases like this every day, bringing you the facts that matter. Drop a comment letting us know where you're watching from, and stay with us as we uncover what really happened on Ronmar Drive. As police taped cordon off the property that morning, investigators began the meticulous process of piecing together what happened. The initial assessment was straightforward but devastating: an apparent murder-suicide. The evidence suggested Tracy Johnson had shot Shaterrica Smith before turning the weapon on himself. But cases like these are rarely simple. They contain layers of human complexity, relationship dynamics, and often warning signs that went unnoticed or unreported. This case raises profound questions about domestic relationships, violence that hides in plain sight, and the critical moments when intervention might have changed everything. What we're about to explore isn't just about how 2 lives ended. It's about understanding the pathway that led there, and perhaps most importantly, what similar patterns might be unfolding right now in homes across America. The Alexandria Police Department's call log shows the exact moment everything changed. At 4:30 a.m., a neighbor reported hearing what sounded like gunshots and a domestic disturbance from the residents on the 5900 block of Ronmar Drive. Patrol officers responded quickly, arriving at a seemingly ordinary house in a quiet neighborhood. Upon entry, they discovered a scene that would haunt even experienced officers. Inside, they found 38-year-old Shaterrica Smith with a fatal gunshot wound to her upper torso. In another area of the home lay 42-year-old Tracy Johnson, deceased from what evidence immediately suggested was a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. A handgun was recovered near Johnson's body, later confirmed to be legally registered to him and the weapon used in both shootings. The immediate area was secured as a crime scene. Standard protocols were followed, establishing perimeter with crime scene tape, restricting access, and awaiting the arrival of investigators and forensic specialists. Those first responding officers noted something significant. There were no signs of forced entry, no indication of a struggle, no suggestion that anyone else had been present. The furniture remained in place. The doors were locked from the inside. Whatever had happened in those early morning hours appeared to have been contained entirely between Shaterrica and Tracy. Crime scene investigators meticulously documented everything. They recovered shell casings consistent with the caliber of the weapon found. Gunshot residue tests confirmed the presence of residue on Johnson's hands, supporting the theory that he had fired the weapon. The bodies were found in close proximity within one of the main living areas, though Johnson had apparently moved to a separate part of the room after shooting Smith. Before we continue with this investigation, if you find this type of in-depth analysis valuable, please take a second to hit the like button. It helps our channel reach more people interested in understanding these complex cases. And if you haven't already, subscribe to join our community of critical thinkers who want to understand the truth behind headline tragedies. Who was Shaterrica Smith? The 38-year-old African-American woman lived in Alexandria, Louisiana, at the residence on Ronmar Drive where her life ended. Official statements confirmed her identity after the 911 call reporting the disturbance. Public records indicated she was occasionally referred to with the surname Johnson, suggesting a personal connection with Tracy Johnson, though the exact legal status of their relationship wasn't specified in police reports. Law enforcement confirmed their domestic relationship and classified the incident accordingly, with Shaterrica identified as a victim in what investigators described as an apparent murder-suicide. She had no active legal issues or reported criminal record at the time of her death. The home where the shooting occurred was her residence, and significantly, there have been no prior police reports made from that address involving her name. The Rapids Parish Coroner's Office conducted the autopsy, determining that Smith's cause of death was a close-range gunshot wound to the chest. The time of death for both individuals was established to have occurred within minutes of each other, placing the fatal events in that narrow window around 4:30 a.m. Shaterrica's digital footprint was minimal after her death. Her profile appeared on online memorial pages, but no formal obituary or family-issued statement was made public. Authorities requested that anyone with information related to the case contact the Alexandria Police Department or submit tips anonymously through Crime Stoppers. Her background, aside from a residence and connection to Tracy Johnson, remained largely undocumented in official media releases and public records. Tracy Johnson, 42, was identified by law enforcement as the male found deceased alongside Shaterrica Smith. According to police reports, Johnson sustained a self-inflicted gunshot wound and was classified as a suspected shooter in what authorities treated as an apparent murder-suicide. The firearm recovered at the scene, legally registered to Johnson, was linked to both fatalities through ballistic analysis. Forensic examination determined the shooting sequence, indicating that Smith was shot first, followed by Johnson taking his own life shortly after. The positioning of the bodies and the absence of signs of forced entry or struggle supported the conclusion that no third party was involved. Johnson's prior criminal record and employment history were not publicly released. At the time of the incident, there were no known active disputes or public altercations reported to local law enforcement involving him and Smith. The murder-suicide designation was established through preliminary autopsy results, forensic review, and the absence of external suspects. Investigators examined electronic data, including mobile device records and communication logs, to determine the nature of recent interactions between Johnson and Smith. No suicide note or written explanation was found at the scene. Police did not disclose any findings regarding mental health status or financial circumstances that might have played a role in the case. If you're finding this detailed examination helpful in understanding the complexities of domestic violence cases, please take a moment to share this video with someone who might benefit from this knowledge. Your engagement helps spread awareness about these critical issues. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Let's examine forensic evidence more closely. When investigators arrived at the Ronmar Drive residence, they found two individuals with fatal gunshot wounds. The female victim, Shaterrica Smith, had been shot in the upper torso at close range. Tracy Johnson was discovered with a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. The handgun found near Johnson's body was confirmed through ballistic testing to have been used in both shootings. It was legally registered to Johnson, and no additional weapons were discovered on the premises. The scene showed no signs of forced entry, and the physical evidence didn't indicate a struggle had taken place. Furniture and interior objects remained undisturbed. Gunshot residue tests confirmed the presence of residue on Johnson's hands, providing technical support for the theory that he had fired the weapon. Shell casings recovered at the scene were consistent with the caliber of the gun used. The Rapids Parish Coroner's Office conducted autopsies on both individuals, confirming their causes of death. Officers collected electronic devices and reviewed nearby surveillance footage. Their investigation found no evidence of third-party individuals entering or leaving the residence around the time of the incident. A search of text messages and call logs yielded no evidence of threats or involvement from outside persons. No suicide note was recovered from the scene. According to Alexandria Police Department records, when officers arrived at the 5900 block of Ronmar Drive, following the 4:30 a.m. emergency call, they located the two deceased individuals inside the home. Neighbors later informed investigators that they were awakened in the early morning hours by loud arguing followed by what sounded like gunshots. One resident, whose name was not released, placed an emergency call that led police to the scene. No one reported witnessing the incident directly, and there were no visual confirmations of what happened inside the residence. Residents described hearing raised voices, but didn't consider it unusual or threatening prior to that night, although some mentioned hearing occasional disputes from the home in recent weeks. No calls to law enforcement had ever been made before this incident. The investigation revealed no public record of prior domestic violence complaints, restraining orders, or previous law enforcement responses at the Ronmar Drive residence. Authorities classified the incident as a domestic-related murder-suicide, indicating that the motive likely developed from private interactions between both individuals. Shaterrica Smith and Tracy Johnson were in a domestic relationship, although police did not publicly specify the legal status of their relationship. Reports confirmed they shared the home where the incident occurred. Neighbors interviewed reported no obvious signs of trouble, suggesting that any conflicts may have been kept private or escalated without warning. We've reached the halfway point of our investigation, and I'd like to thank you for staying with us. If you're finding value in this detailed analysis, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more in-depth coverage of cases like this. Your support helps us continue our work. Now, let's continue examining what happened on Ronmar Drive. With no suicide note or final written communication discovered at the scene, investigators began reviewing digital activity, mobile phone records, and the individual's interpersonal associations to determine potential motives. Public databases revealed no previous legal disputes, protective orders, or documented threats involving either party. Authorities considered whether financial stress, relationship tension, or untreated mental health issues may have contributed to the events. While these factors were under review, none were officially confirmed by police. Witnesses did not report prior disturbances at the residence, and there was no indication of past police involvement for disputes between Smith and Johnson. The scene showed no signs of forced entry or physical struggle, indicating that the shooting occurred during a direct and personal encounter inside the home. The firearm recovered at the scene was located next to Tracy Johnson's body and is believed to have been used in both shootings. Tracy Johnson is considered the sole individual involved in both deaths. Investigators found no evidence suggesting the presence or involvement of a third party. The case was treated as an isolated domestic incident, and based on current evidence, no external trigger was identified. Law enforcement did not release detailed findings from forensic or digital examinations, but confirmed that the trajectory and placement of the gunshot wounds supported the classification of the case as a murder-suicide. No valuables were reported stolen, and the property showed no indication of forced access. At this point in the investigation, the motive remained undetermined due to the absence of eyewitnesses and the lack of definitive written or digital evidence outlining Johnson's intent. Investigators continue to analyze data to better understand the context behind the fatal encounter. The Alexandria Police Department encouraged anyone with knowledge about the relationship or any relevant background details to submit information. The case remained active pending final autopsy reports and a complete forensic and digital evidence review. After discovering the bodies of Shaterrica Smith and Tracy Johnson, Alexandria police quickly classified the incident as an apparent murder-suicide. The physical evidence present was consistent with a scenario in which one individual was fatally shot, followed by the second person turning the weapon on himself. Autopsy reports from a medical examiner's office confirmed the initial police findings. Shaterrica Smith sustained a fatal gunshot wound, and Tracy Johnson's injuries aligned with a self-inflicted shot. The house was secured, and forensic investigators collected ballistic evidence, fingerprints, and electronic devices for further analysis. As our investigation continues, I want to remind you to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications if you haven't already. Your support allows us to bring you more in-depth analysis of cases like this. Leave a comment with your thoughts on what we've covered so far. As of the latest available update, the Alexandria Police Department had not identified any third-party involvement in the case. No suicide note was recovered at the scene, and no digital communications, such as texts or emails indicating premeditation, were released to the public. Authorities reviewed the individual's phone records and searched through personal and shared social media accounts to piece together possible motives or warnings, but no significant clues were disclosed. No previous domestic disturbance calls or formal complaints involving the two individuals have been filed with local law enforcement. This absence of recorded conflict limited investigators' ability to trace a behavioral escalation leading up to the incident. Police stated that interviews were conducted with close friends, relatives, and neighbors of both parties, though no witness report suggested a clear pattern of violence or threat prior to March 30th. Law enforcement emphasized that while the case was not considered active in terms of suspect pursuit, it remained open for supplemental information. Investigators continue to ask the public to come forward with any knowledge about the relationship between Smith and Johnson, or any warning signs observed in the days or weeks leading up to the shooting. The Alexandria Police Department provided dedicated contact lines and directed anonymous tips to Crime Stoppers of Semla. To date, no public revelations have clarified what may have motivated the shooting. Without a confession, documentation, or third-party account identifying cause or intent, the reason for the act remains officially undetermined. Investigators categorize the case as resolved due to the deaths of both involved individuals, though it is archived and subject to reopening if new verifiable evidence arises. The murder-suicide involving Shaterrica Smith and Tracy Johnson fits a consistent national pattern in which domestic-related violence escalates to fatal outcomes. National data shows that the majority of murder-suicide cases involve intimate relationships, with women comprising the primary victim group. These events often occur in private residences and are typically carried out using firearms. Louisiana ranks among the top states for female homicide victims killed by male offenders. Within the state, Rapids Parish has reported persistent domestic violence rates, contributing to Alexandria's broader challenges with interpersonal violence. In 2024, over 30% of reported violent incidents in the parish stem from domestic disputes. We're approaching the end of our investigation. If you found this analysis valuable, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us bring awareness to these important issues. Leave a comment with your thoughts on domestic violence prevention. While many murder-suicide cases are preceded by behavioral indicators, such as controlling behavior, possessiveness, threats, or psychological abuse, formal documentation is often lacking. The absence of criminal charges, protective orders, or police reports in this case suggests that any internal conflicts between Smith and Johnson remained within the confines of their relationship and were never brought to official attention. The Alexandria Police Department classified the deaths as an apparent murder-suicide based on evidence recovered from the scene. Their investigation determined no involvement from any third party. Authorities also confirmed that no earlier calls to law enforcement have been made regarding the individuals involved. This absence of prior intervention or legal reporting is common in many murder-suicide cases, particularly when victims do not reach out for support due to fear, social pressure, or lack of resources. No major public reaction, vigil, or protest was documented after the incident. The use of firearms in domestic murder-suicides continues to be a consistent factor, with studies indicating that access to guns significantly increases the risk of fatal outcomes in abusive relationships. Despite ongoing campaigns to improve firearm safety and implement protective laws, enforcement and prevention remain limited, especially in private households. Law enforcement and advocacy groups emphasize the importance of community vigilance and early intervention. Public awareness campaigns encourage individuals to report signs of coercion, emotional manipulation, or threats even when there is no visible violence. However, in situations like the one involving Smith and Johnson, the lack of external warnings limits the opportunity for preventive action. As we conclude our examination of the Ronmar Drive tragedy, we're left with more questions and answers. What private struggles existed between Shaterrica Smith and Tracy Johnson? Could intervention have prevented these deaths? And how many similar situations might be developing right now, hidden from public view? If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, please contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. Remember that warning signs should never be ignored, and help is available. Thank you for joining us for this investigation. If you found this analysis valuable, please subscribe, share this video, and join us next time as we continue to examine cases that demand our attention and understanding. The truth matters, and sometimes it can save lives.